I respect what we used to do in the legislature. The problem that you have in Congress is, and you have this really in every legislative body, our Constitution recognized a power within the legislature itself to write its own rules. And that's an important thing. You don't want anybody else, you don't want the Senate writing the rules for the House. You don't want to create a rule by democracy, because then it would turn into a mess. I think there's some important protections that come, but it speaks to the importance of electing good and honest politicians.
So those rules are reset every session, right?
Not necessarily. I think typically they will adopt rules, but that doesn't mean they change.
Right.
And the body itself can pass its own rules. What we used to do in the legislature, what they still do, is any time a bill passed and then went to the Senate, if the Senate amended it, it automatically came back to the House, and there was a motion to concur with the Senate amendments. In other words, we accept their amendments. If that did not happen, we would refuse to concur and send it back and ask them to withdraw. If they refused to withdraw, then there would be committees appointed to negotiate the amendments, and then those amendments, that conference committee would bring that bill back, and we would have another vote on it, because you always had to have a majority to pass a bill. What's happening in Congress is you have all sorts of ways by which accountability has been taken out of the picture. I mean, look at the earmark process. The earmark process is a process with very little accountability, very little transparency. It's a game to see who can deliver the most. And at times, certain earmarks, and maybe then they can't appropriately be called earmarks, they would be called appropriations. If done, they can be appropriate. If we do an earmark, let's say, for defense spending. I don't think the problem with earmarks is I don't think it's what we spend it on all the time, it's how we're allowing that process to occur. So let's say, Senator Bennett wants an earmark for military spending in a very appropriate fashion. It's constitutional. More power to you. Somebody else may want one to benefit a scrapbooking company to make scrapbook videos for military veterans. I don't think that's appropriate. But so one appropriate, one not. But in both instances, the procedure that we use is what is wrong. And the rules to me are very similar. The rules have created opportunities for the House, such as the slaughter rule. And if you're not familiar with what the slaughter rule is, it is the rule that allows the Speaker of the House to deem that certain amendments or certain bills have passed without a vote to give them back to the Senate. That's what they were trying to do with health care. There was so much backlash for that they didn't do it. Instead, they got the votes they needed and they passed it that Sunday night.
But Matheson voted to pass that rule.
He voted for the slaughter rule.
I fail to understand how there is such a thing as a slaughter rule. And how can we get rid of it, basically?
I think it all, to me, term limits, sorry to bring up a totally off-topic point, but I think it speaks to me in a way that I think is pertinent to what you're asking. And to me, it all goes to who we elect. It goes back to Bastiat and the rule of law. Do we believe that our congressmen are bound by certain constraints? I would say yes, but I fear we're at a point in America where most do not believe there is some sort of barrier upon our congressmen and women. That barrier to me is the Constitution, which should make it such that you can't have things like the slaughter rule. But the slaughter rule and other opportunities, if you want to call them that, or avoidances, have allowed our congressmen and women to avoid accountability. So the answer, in my opinion, is we elect good and honest people who love the Constitution, who believe that they truly are bound under it, to respect the rule of law.